So section 1.7, let's move on to that. I'm hoping this will be a familiar topic to everyone, and actually all we want to do is get through section 1.7 today. That's the goal. So we'll hopefully have a little bit of extra time again for you to ask any general chapter 1 questions, because after this we're going to have a test over chapter 1. So that will be next week. Yes.
What happens to 1.8 and 1.9?
1.8 and 1.9 are that we don't count higher than 1.7 in this class. Actually, there is no 1.8 and 1.9.
Yeah, that's why I asked what happened to it.
Are there 1.8 and 1.9s in the other one?
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, why didn't you ask what happened to 1.8 to 1.9 to 1.10, 1.11, 1.12, right? We've just been sitting here all day as you went through all of it. It looks like they, for the most part, divided up into 6 or 7 different sections per chapter. I don't see anything going higher than 0.7 yet. So, so our goal is to have a test next week, and I'm going to look over the material. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that test. We're strapped for time in here, right? So it's going to be a challenge to try to take all of the tests in class. We will definitely have some in class, but we may have to do some of these as proctored tests at home. Yes.
So in biology, she had our parents. It was an at-home test,
Right.
But she had her parents sitting there with us to make
Right.
sure we didn't cheat or anything.
That's
so
exactly.
that is an option.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying when I say proctored test, that's what I mean.
Oh.
Parent is present, and then they also signed the test to let me know that they were present whenever you did it, right? So your test should be turned in with a parent's signature on there to let me know they proctored. Okay, but it's just a lot of material. It's too much material to try to cover when we've only got an hour and a half a week in 31 weeks. So we're definitely going to have to do some of these tests as proctored tests. All right, so let's talk about perimeter, circumference, and area. These are topics that, like I said, I think are going to be familiar to you guys. Hopefully you've seen all of these before. And we're really going to just focus on 4 shapes in this particular section here. We've got squares, rectangle, triangle, and circle. So for a square, squares look like this.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so some of you haven't seen this before. Yes, that is a square. Pretty impressive, huh? I've been wondering since I was 2 what that was. The thing about what makes it a square, right, is the fact that all of the angles in the corners are 90 degrees. And all of the sides are equal to one another. So we should start, we're getting familiar now with the tick marks, using those to signify that lengths are the same.
You have 4 tinier squares instead of the bigger squares. You could just keep going and going.
You're right. Yes, and to infinity. Wow, making my brain hurt. All right, so the perimeter of a square, how do you find the perimeter of any polygon? Yes.
You just add all the sides up.
You just add all the sides up. And so for this particular one here, I could write the perimeter of a square as s plus s plus s plus s, right? But since it's 4 s's, it's much simpler to just say s, 4s, right? If we label a side as being linked s. I'm so glad we learned the little right thing. I did. I had to put the R in my head.
And I have 2 L's in my name for left.
Perfect. All right. Don't you ever switch seats, okay? Or switch sides anyway. So that's the perimeter. And then what about the area? How do you find the area of any, what we call a quadrilateral, any 4-sided that's got right angles? Yes.
Length times width. Or...
Length times width. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to say whenever we get to a rectangle. We're going to say length times width, right? Rectangle is looking like this.
Well, you just do.
But because the sides are all the same for a square, length times width is actually s squared, right? So that's our area formula for square. Now for rectangles, I put my rectangle, I labeled mine a little differently than they did, like as far as how I drew it, but still we'll say this is the length and this is the width. And again, by definition, a square has right angles in all 4 corners, and the opposite sides are equivalent in length. And so the perimeter for this, again, I could say, it's L plus W plus W. I can say that, and that would be accurate. If you don't want to remember it that way, that's absolutely fine. but I can algebraically combine these into 2L and 2W, and so we're going to write that simpler equation. 2L, that does not look like an L. 2L plus 2W. And then, as we've already said, the area of a rectangle is length times width. And just as a refresher, right, this is the same as, 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 this. I mean, there's all kind of ways that we could write that, right? But you should be reaching a point to where you know that all of those just mean they're multiplying together, right? All right, so triangle. All right, so for a triangle, the perimeter, like we already said, for any polygon, you guys are familiar with that term polygon, right? We're definitely going to define it in here later, but I was sure you'd seen that in your mathematical career at some point. Yes.
A polygon is like a wacky shape. It's like, kind of looks like a square with another square on top of it, like any shape that looks kind of interesting.
Well, let me ask you that question. Is that a polygon?
No.
It actually is. So,
Because a polygon is a shape with, I think it was 3 or more sides.
there you go.
Yeah.
Right, so 3 or more sides that are,
A polygon is a shape of 3 or more sides that are connected and
that's the key.
not have any curves or anything.
Yeah, no curves, all straight
3
lines.
straight sides that are connected.
Exactly, yeah, so a polygon, could look like, no, that's a curve, right? So that can't be a polygon, even if I did that. But if I did like this, all straight lines, that would be a polygon. If I go like this, right, as long as it's straight lines, and that one's not quite a polygon because I missed my point there again, right? So however many, as long as it's 3 or more, but they have to connect and they have to be straight lines. So all of these would be classified as polygons. And so for polygons, just in general, the perimeters always add up the sides to get what the perimeter is of a polygon. We've been able to simplify the equation for the square and the rectangle, but for the triangle, we can't, right? Because none of these sides are necessarily the same. And so we just write down the perimeter as A plus B plus C for a triangle. And then for the area of a triangle, if we draw a line down from the top corner of the triangle and make it 90 degrees to this base down here that we've labeled B, then that distance there, which we specified as H to represent height, yes, is.
It is, wait, which one?
And you can go ahead and say it, because, which one's not on the board? You guys have both got on the board, sorry. I just kind of, and David, you got on there, and Joey, you got on there for taking a shot at it. So whatever, yeah, doesn't matter. What's the?
Sure, I'll do it. It's base times height divided by 2.
BH divided by 2. Some people think about it like that. Some people think of it as 1/2 BH, which is fine, as long as you understand that those are both the same, right? 1/2 BH is the same as BH over 2. So that is our formula for the area of the triangle. All right. So circle, last one. Circle. So we define a circle like that. That's supposed to be an R. Make that a little longer so it looks more like an R. R stands for, Gabe? Radius. And radius is, what's that point right there that I've labeled? That's the center point. Who said that? Jackson? So that's the center. It is Jackson, right? Okay. So that's the center point. So if you draw a line segment from the center point to any outer edge of the circle, that's the radius, right? If I drew this here, what would that be?
No, the diameter.
Yeah, well, I think several people said diameter. I said, how am I going to do this? I need like buzzers for you guys, so I can see who did it first. We need like the Jeopardy thing going on here. So somebody else that hasn't already got their name on the board. I saw you two gentlemen both raise your hands, so I want you to arm wrestle real quick to see who gets it. All right, so you tell me, it's a 3-syllable word, right? So you tell me the first 2 syllables. Diane. Okay. Actually, it's a 4-syllable word, isn't it? Diameter. Very good. All right, so both of these guys get on the board. Cal and wait, don't tell me, Ian? Yes. All right, excellent. See, this is really just, it's not for you guys, it's a trick for me to remember, to start learning the names, right? That's what this is all about. So I'm going to label this D for the diameter. They don't do that in the book, but I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. So the circumference of a circle, somebody that doesn't have their name on the board, can someone tell me? Aiden.
It's 2 times pi, and then times radius.
2 pi r, right? 2 pi r is how we would write that. Now, what we've got to understand, though, how are D and R related to one another? Again, someone who's not on the board. And someone not on the board. Brittany.
R is half of D.
R is half of D. So another way that we could write that is D equals 2R. Everybody agree with that? Right? And if we kind of rearrange this guy here, we can rearrange that to be C equals 2R pi. Oops, I said 2R pi. I wrote down 2 pi R. 2R pi, right? Since all those are multiplied together, can't we do that? In multiplication, can't we multiply in any order? So now we see that we've got 2R here and we've got 2R here. So we could actually write that as D pi, but the way it's usually written is pi D, right? So we did all that exercise just to show you that circumference is either 2 pi R or pi D, all right? And then, let's see, I feel like I didn't write someone's name on the board. It was Brittany, yeah. I missed somebody. I spell that right, Brittany?
Yes.
Okay. And then the area. What's the area? Somebody else. Tell me the area. Piper.
Pi r squared.
Pi r squared. Very good. Pi r squared.